And welcome to Across the Nation here on AmericanFreePress.net. I'm Mark Anderson, Roving editor, and we're talking with Stephen Hernandez and his daughter Andrea here in San Antonio, November 2012. And they've been fighting since the beginning of this school year against the plans by the Northside Independent School District, the NISD, to have students in two of its major schools wear chipped or microchipped student IDs that have these RFID microchips embedded inside of them. And it's been an uphill battle for them, but they're beginning to see light at the end of the tunnel and make significant progress in their fight. Thanks for being with me on this news video.
Thank you, Mark. We appreciate it.
Andrea, I'll start with you. You've really started an avalanche here. I understand that more or less it was you at the beginning of the school year, the 2012-2013 school year, that objected, based on religious principles and free speech in accordance with your dad, Stephen, objected to wearing the chipped ID. And now I understand, as you've both told me, that there's some 300 students that are rebelling in some way, shape, or form, not wanting to wear these microchipped IDs. Is that true, Andrea?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct.
Did it go slowly, like 1, then 5, then 10, then 20, or did it kind of go from just a few to many all at once?
It kind of went from a few to many. There was groups and chunks of students, all different grade levels. Everybody's taking notice now. Interesting.
And Stephen, you helped collect signatures, and I think Andrea helped your daughter. And how many signatures now do you have, and who all participated in that? How did that go?
Oh, absolutely. When we first started doing the signatures, I used to just sit out in front of John Jay High School at lunchtime and gather signatures from students. And slowly we had parents coming across, signing. We had other people coming in across and signing. And then the We Are Change fellas from here in town, We Are Change San Antonio and Texas Hill Country, decided, hey, we're going to jump in too and help you gather signatures. And they went to all the John Jay football games, as many as they possibly could, and gathered signatures. So I myself gathered about 350 signatures, and then We Are Change gathered another 350. So we have over 700 signatures at this time.
And these petitions, these straight-ahead petitions, basically say that we object to this microchipped ID program on the basis of what?
For us, it's a religious freedom. For other folks, it's right to privacy, the civil liberties. But first and foremost, this whole thing started on our religious freedom. We felt that our religious freedom was being infringed upon. Many people that we've talked to outside the school, many students, was religious freedom.
How has the local media, the mainstream press, which is distinctly different from American Free Press, treated this? The San Antonio News Express, the local TV affiliates. Briefly, how have they handled this? Is it all over the place? Is it kind of sympathetic to you? Is it not sympathetic to you? Or is it you know, all over the place? How is this shaping up?
You know, when we first started, KSAT 12 did a great job putting out that story. And then WOAI, Channel 4, did a wonderful job putting it out there. And then right after that, when we did our first protest in front of Anson Jones, everybody but Channel 4 mocked us and made fun of us. When I say that, in other words, they didn't give us fair time. They gave it all to NISD that it was only brought by one man, one student, and which wasn't true because there was other people out there, and there was people from different cities that came to help protest as well.
Around Texas, Dallas, and other areas.
Yes, sir.
And so the print media, how about them, briefly?
No, we don't get a free shake at all. We don't get a fair shake at all with San Antonio Express News. Not at all. When he calls me, I just pretty much tell him, hey, you know, I don't want to do interviews with you. He does this a really horrible job. He does favor NISD.
And so, brand new news, breaking news today, here the 12th of November 2012, I understand, is legislation in Austin. Tell us about that. Both of you can chime in on this.
Go ahead, Andrea.
What do you understand about it, Andrea?
From what I understand is they're filing 2 bills today. There was 2 of them filed.
Just today,
Yeah,
November
just
12th.
today, November 12th. The first one says that it bans the use of RFID in any school districts throughout the state of Texas. And the second one says, okay, if your school district has it, well, there has to be an opt-out program. And if there's an opt-out program, the people that go through that cannot have any negative consequences against them.
or be discriminated against or mistreated or miseducated, if you will.
Absolutely, yeah.
Very interesting. And so we've seen this grow from more or less yourself, Andrea, with your dad's help, to some 300 kids or more. And give us a little perspective. This is John Jay High School, where you're a sophomore, Andrea, and there's Anson Jones Middle School. And these two buildings in this huge school district, huge NISD school district, have how many students just in these two buildings?
Approximately 4,200 kids.
So we're looking at some 300 at the high school, and some of the are some at the middle school as well that are beginning to object to this, or is it mainly in the high school?
No, absolutely, yeah. We've had some people call us from the Anson Jones where their parents are taking out their kids because they said we don't want to be part of this, and the media covers that up. NISD covers it up. They don't want anybody to know that there are students being pulled out of Anson Jones.
So it's fair to say that if you count the middle school and you're getting close to 400, that's about 10% of those two buildings. And yet we have a school district here that has some over 100 buildings, separate buildings within its overall jurisdiction.
112 schools.
112 different buildings. So the potential through the chip maker, Wade Garcia, an area company, is to have all 112 buildings, all those students to be microchipped through these student IDs that wear like a necklace, correct?
Well, I believe there's 100,000 students.
Wow. I didn't even know school districts got that big. That alone is incredible.
That's incredible.
So we have a religious freedom fight, a civil liberties fight, over 700 petition signatures, the new legislation that you described, and 300 rebels and growing against microchip student IDs, ladies and gentlemen. And they see it as an Orwellian program where schools are treated almost like quasi-penitentiaries, without the bars perhaps, but the philosophical and the basic principles of captivity laid down, although not always overt, but it becomes more overt with the use of these IDs. And any final comments? Where do you see this going? Are you going to keep gathering signatures? When might these petitions be presented? Where do you see this going? You've made a lot of progress since August when the school year started. Where do you see this going?
Well, we're in here for the long haul, and we're going to fight it to the very end. And when I say the very end, we want it stopped. We want the program stopped. We're going to
school-wide, district-wide.
District-wide, statewide. We don't want it at all because it's pretty much forced speech, trying to make kids put a pretty face on their program, and it's all about them getting paid. And ISD just wants to get paid.
Well, due to the some $2 million, that's an estimate, in Texas state aid that they get for the proper attendance, and this is supposedly based on getting and monitoring students for purposes of attendance, correct?
Yes.
And just one last segue, the school district did agree to have Andrea's microchip removed, but she'd still have to wear the ID itself. And that's where you reached an impasse because they thought that would be enough to satisfy you. Tell us a little bit about that to wind up this presentation.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they want her to wear a shell of a badge. It doesn't have a chip in it. First of all, how do I know it doesn't have a chip in it? Okay. Second of all, they wanted to appease us and say, hey, you know, this is a great deal. Take it. Because if not, you're tying our hands. And I told them, no, my daughter's not going to wear the symbol of your program so that she can put a pretty face on your program. Well, it's just not going to happen. Because we can't even appear to like the program or fall in line like the rest, you know, quoting Ray Galindo. No, we're not going to do it.
Ray Galindo being an administrator at the school.
Yes, he's a deputy superintendent, and he wanted us to fall in line like the rest, and she would wear the chip-free badge around her neck, and she must fall in line in the program and show support for the program. We're not going to show support for a program we don't believe in.
Anything you want to add, Andrea?
I was very appalled when I saw that they were just like, well, just take it anyways, you know, there won't be a chip. It's the whole concept of the thing. It would be a waste of time to make an empty badge because I still wouldn't wear it anyways. I was perfectly fine with my last year's badge.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And you initially understood that your freshman badge should have lasted you all 4 years as it was. Now, lastly, that's where you ended up with a letter to the administration saying that's all good and well that she doesn't have to wear a chip in her badge, but I still see this as a larger philosophical and religious objection, and they have yet to respond to that letter for about 3 weeks, right?
Yes, they didn't respond at all until I gave them a good 10 days to respond. And they're so good at telling you and giving you timelines when you have to do your grievances, but it takes some weeks to respond back to you. And they do that because they know if you miss your next deadline, they can dismiss you. But I've been on top of it constantly. And so basically I had to send out 2-3 emails, 2 letters, and then finally they responded to say, okay, we're going to do your level 2 grievance. And so now we have an attorney, and we're going to meet this Friday at 2:30 with the district, and we're going to discuss this. And hopefully they'll come to...
but since delivering the letter where you're not satisfied with the removal of the chip, you haven't heard anything.
No, sir.
And that was in mid-October.
And you're absolutely right. They do not respond to the letters. And they will tell you, Mr. Hernandez, every time we meet, it's going to be scripted. We will not fall away from the script. And they will tell you up front, we will not vary from the script.
Interesting. So they have a predetermined way they do these things.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Thank you for talking with me about this,
Thank you very
Andrea.
much.
Stephen Hernandez here from San Antonio. And we'll see you next time here at AmericanFreePress.net. I'm Mark Anderson.